You're listening to Titular Characters with your host, the adorable Eva Webb.
Let's talk nerdy things like comic books and superheroes with some nerdy peeps, writers, cartoonists, and so much more. Just stick around and have some fun with the lovely and adorable Eva Webb.
Story time. Our next guest is someone special, someone who's been involved with this show since the second episode. She drew 25 consecutive commissioned covers for us, and today she's the artist and creative mastermind behind the Webtoon's romance comic, The Cloud That Became Rain. Empress Luxiva is one of my favorite people anywhere, and she's so talented. And today, we're going to hang out and talk about comics. This is going to be fun. So, Lexi, welcome to my happy little show. I think this one's more interesting than most because, I've had the luxury of working with you, for all these months. But
ever since September, right?
I know, it's crazy.
It's been so long.
And you've just sort of blossomed and taken off since then. I mean, my goodness. Your comic is amazing. It's a ton of fun. Would you mind telling the audience maybe what your comic's about?
Actually, I will start out being like, I wouldn't have made the comic already if it wasn't because of you. Because you're kind of like, I don't know, inspired me and motivated me and kind of pushed me to do the comic, because working with you and doing all the cover art, all the comic cover mock-ups kind of made me more hungry for making my own comic. And you work so hard and you're always super motivating and supportive, so I was like, you know what, yeah, I do want to make my own comic actually. so I just did it. I would have definitely waited much longer with making it if it hadn't been for you always beating me, always motivation for I really want my own comic. So honestly, it's all awesome. Thanks to you and honestly all the hard work and pushing through. Every time I feel a little bit lazy, I'm always like, okay, but Eva is working so hard on her podcast, and I have seen it blooming into what it is today. I'm like, you know what? No. Eva didn't raise a quitter. So.
Oh my God, that is the nicest thing I think anyone's ever said to me. But just to be 100% clear, I don't think any of that was me. I think it was all you. I think you had a great idea for a comic. I think you just went out and you did it, and you sort of, you went out and you just sort of braved the roads there, and now you've just got this amazing story, and I'm always just blown away by the art and the way you do comics art.
Thank you.
I've never seen anybody do comics art quite the way you do. For example, the thing that comes to my mind is when I talk to artists, they're always talking about the one action rule, right?
Yeah.
Where you're only supposed to have one action per frame, and somebody came along and made that a rule. But when I was reading your comic, though, you break that rule all the time, and it's so exciting, especially during action scenes. And it just sort of draws you in a way that I think is entirely unique. I've never seen anything quite like it.
I'm so happy you think so. I think the cool thing about Webtoon is when you do traditional comics, there is a set in stone template for how far your borders can go based on for the printing and all that stuff. With Webtoon, there's not really hard limits. There's always a little sweet spot say you can't go a little too high. You can't start the comic like right at the top of the actual comic page, because that's where the Webtoon banner is gonna be. But other than that, there's like really no limits. You can go as crazy you want, go completely to the border. Like, it's very like a free for all. So you have more room to think outside the box when you're doing your paneling and stuff, right? I really like that creative freedom, and since it's such a new platform, there are so many possibilities and advantages you can take with the format that I kind of want to like experiment and try new stuff and see what I can do with it. Yeah, I think it's really fun. Also, the convenience of reading it through your phone. I don't know. That's awesome. I keep reading it in my like coffee breaks.
That's neat. I personally prefer digital comics, just the ability, because it's sort of like you could have, 1,000, paper comics and just sort of carry them around with you, but it's going to be a strain on your back. You know what I mean? These boxes are super heavy. And with digital comics, anywhere I go, I've got a comic. And I think that's just the most exciting thing about it, really, is that there's no limitation on space. The pages can be longer or shorter in terms of weight. It doesn't matter, and it's good on any device you might have.
Yeah. And also it's easily accessible for everybody. Like everyone around the world can read your comic, right? And if you print, people have to buy your comic. Like, of course, I would prefer if people gave me money to read my comic. But I think it's so cool that anyone can, like, at any time read your comic and enjoy it for free. If I think it's cool, they can always support you in other ways. But everywhere in the world, someone can like stumble upon your comic and be like, that's some cool stuff. I want to read that, right? I love that.
So everybody I've talked to that knows your comic has just been telling me that you are growing in leaps and bounds. Your audience is just exploding. How does that feel?
I don't know if that's the case, but I'm trying my best. Yeah, I don't know. I will definitely say it's going better than I expected. But I'm basically doing it mainly for me. I know everybody says that, and in the end, we're all like, "Oh, I want the numbers," but I honestly was reading all these amazing comics with amazing art, and in my mind, I've always had this childhood dream of just making a comic. I don't care about if like how many people reads it. I have just had this dream of making my own comic, and during quarantine, I was like, you know what? Now is the time. Like, I have nothing better to do. I'm gonna learn how to draw because I want to draw this one comic and just do it. And here I am.
I was just going to say, you taught yourself how to draw in like a year, and you'd never drawn before.
Yeah, I think it's just self-discipline. Like if you want if you want to be able to do something really badly, if you work hard enough for it, you can do it. Right? Like drawing is not something you're just born with. Like some people have a more natural ability to learn how to draw or something like that. But everybody can learn it if they practice hard enough, right? So I honestly just think I was blessed by the gods to have like be forced to stay inside for such a long time. So I had nothing else to do. I could sit there the whole day just practicing drawing until I was like satisfied enough with it that I would start taking commissions, right? And that's how I started out. I did commissions before I did my comic, and then I don't know what happened. I met you, you commissioned me, and you keep pushing me like outside my comfort zone. So for every art piece we had to make together, I always had to do something completely new, something that I maybe wasn't comfortable with my skill level at that time. But then I went to like the internet and studied a lot of references to be able to draw it. Like I never said like, no, I don't think I can draw that. Like I just said yes and did my best. So I think that pushed me a lot
You
to be
did
like,
great.
yeah, I mean, I for my comic, I also think, you know what, if it was Eva who asked you to design a weapon or some sort or make this background or whatever, I would not say no. So why would I say no to my own comic? So I'm pushing myself and being like, you know, if I can learn how to draw like steampunk laser beams, I can learn how to draw a sword.
Those were fun. You did so great with those. So for people who are like new listeners, and they might not know because it's been a while since we've done a cover, but when the show first started off, my theory was that we would draw more people in if we just had like really cool, really fun, really silly art. And I got just really, really lucky to just sort of run into you that first time I was out. Because ever since you got busy and I got busy and everything, you have just been totally irreplaceable. I just want to let you know that because oh my God, nobody else can do it the way you do.
Oh, I love you.
I love you too, and your art is just so. I know I keep saying this, but it's just so thoughtful and so dynamic. And the other thing people might not know about you if they haven't seen one of your covers for this show is that you just have a wicked sense of humor. My God, you're funny. Like I'll come up with an idea that I think is funny, and you'll just like sort of push that to the next level, and it's really really a lot of fun. Luxie, I miss working with you. I really do.
You too. Like the fun thing about the covers is like you come up with these really, really interesting prompts and concepts and ideas, but I always try my best to like leave in one element of surprise every time because I know you love them. I know that keeps you like more excited to see it because you're like, oh no, what is she gonna pull this time? And that's like what keeps it fun. Like I I miss that. I love it so much. But I think also like when it comes to my art, for people who have followed your podcast for a long time and you in particular, it's kind of you have seen me grow as an artist since like I don't know. I'm not too proud of like the first few covers when it comes to the art wise, but I still look back at them and I love every single cover we have ever done because they were fun. There's so much personality in them. Maybe the art wasn't like what I can do now, but I don't know. There's so much love and fun energy in them. But the fact that you have seen me from the very first cover I ever did to you, did for you, to like my comic right now is so insane. So I think some people don't understand like how the sentimental feeling you kind of have like watching all these covers from beginning to end and then see this comic in the end is like kind of surreal, right?
It is, and it has been fun to sort of watch you grow as an artist, and like those moments where you're just like, I tried to do this, but I'm just not sure about this, and then you hand it back to me, and it's like the best thing I've ever seen, just in general, like oh gosh, like I loved the cover we did for what was his name?
Like Fox.
He was one of the letterers. Mike Fox was good. Mike Fox was good, but I liked the one with the oh, DC is gonna kill me for not remembering his last name.
No. Do you remember what was on the cover? Maybe I remember.
Yeah, yeah, I do. So it was like the Eva character um and the coffee girl character, and then there's like this big shadow of a villain in the
Oh
background.
yeah, the
He's
one with the
throwing these
letters.
letters. That was really cool. Yeah, that's my favorite cover I think of all
I
time.
love that. That was like one of the first ones I did without a prompt, like I totally freestyled. I remember.
And I remember my thought on it at the time was just like, oh wow, that is one of the most dynamic action poses I think I've ever seen.
I think so. I love doing action poses. I'm so nervous about them because I don't know, foreshortening is scary.
Honestly, reading your comic and some of the action in there, I think you've just gone like miles past where you started with like with my stuff. You've done some action scenes that are just jaw dropping. And this is just my thought because I read a lot of comics and I've always read a lot of comics.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've read tens of thousands of comic books, and there are only maybe three artists I can think of in the entire medium that do action scenes as well as you do.
Oh my god, you're being so sweet. You're being biased. But I love you.
I'm not biased. I'm not biased. It is legit uh, high quality stuff. I mean, um, people who are not reading your comic right now, they're seriously missing out. So anyway, you've actually done creative stuff well above and beyond comics. Like most people won't know it, but you're actually a trained opera singer too.
Yes, I studied classical music performance slash opera in college for 4 years. And I don't know, that was an insane journey. All my life, I have been taught that my destiny was to be a musician. I should be a singer. That was my identity, my destiny. So that was why I was forced to quit drawing. So I haven't drawn since like elementary school. And then I went full on for music. While I was studying opera, I became an underground rap artist and produced my own tracks, produced tracks for other rappers. Came on like mainstream TV. It was like a crazy, crazy journey. Um, but honestly, it just wasn't for me. Thinking back at it, I was never comfortable doing it because I hate being the the one in the spotlight. I hate having so much pressure and focus be on me. Um, I'm an introvert. I'm a sociable introvert, and that just didn't fit with me. My mental health was going crazy over it. So I ended up quitting and moving from Thailand to Europe, Scandinavia, and just starting from scratch, being dirt broke, being a bartender, going to beauty school, becoming a makeup artist, and honestly, I have never been happier. My mental health have never been this good. I love being a makeup artist so much more than being on TV and doing all this like crazy stuff. Everyone is like, especially on social media, is painting this picture of like how success looks like, and success is like fame and money and recognition, being on TV and the mainstream media and stuff like that. And haven't been like have me who have been through all that. It's it depends on what makes you happy. Like some people are just that's not for them, and it took me 25 years to realize that that wasn't for me. Um, my I wish I had just listened to myself and stuck with drawing back in elementary school and never went through that whole journey. But on the other side, I cherish it because it was an adventure. I think it's cool to look back at, but I definitely am really grateful I'm not doing it anymore. I love drawing. I love making my little free comic on the internet, and I love doing people's makeup and make other people feel like a star instead of being the star myself.
That's amazing. That is really cool. I don't think it's just anybody that would say, you know what, this whole fame thing, it's all fine and good, but yeah, whatever. Bye.
Honestly, it was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made in my life because you have worked on, you have worked to build up this career and this life your whole entire life. And to just let all of that go is the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. And it took me, I think, 2 years to actually convince myself to finally do it. And there's not a single day ever since I did that I regret doing it, because the further away I get from it, the more distant I get from the whole show business world, the more I see that really was not good for me. That was really toxic for me. I think it's toxic in general, but it was especially toxic for me because I wasn't just not mentally that kind of person who likes that kind of lifestyle, right? I'm not a very materialistic person. I don't really care about the money. I think people recognizing me on the streets is really uncomfortable. All that, it wasn't for me. So yeah.
So what drives you creatively? When you create, be it songs or art or whatever it is you're creating in a moment, where does that come from? Where do you pull?
Telling a story. I've always been a storyteller. When I didn't understand I couldn't find my love for music. I knew that I had some sort of skill because I was trained since I was a toddler to sing. But I couldn't find the love for it until I started listening to rap music and I heard the lyrics, and some of those lyrics really spoke to me. I started understanding oh wait, I can tell stories with music, right? I can tell messages through music that wouldn't be okay for me to say, just speak out and say these things. But as soon as you put it into with a sick rap beat in the background, people being like, oh yeah, that's cool. So I use the music and me being forced to do music to convey a lot of messages. Most of my music was criticizing society and speaking up about feminism and toxic beauty standards and all that crazy stuff like that. Right now, I'm using my comic to tell a story about grief and loss, because I've been through I'm an orphan, so I've been through both of my parents dying on me and not having any family and trying to make it on my own, but most of all trying to deal with heavy loss. No matter how many years it takes, it's been years now. It's been a long time. And it still hurts. And I'm you start to get another perspective of the whole death thing and the whole thing about losing people. I'm not scared of death anymore. I'm not really that scared of people dying around me anymore, because you start to feel okay, everybody dies at some point, and you just appreciate them for the moment they're there, and you feel lucky, even though a person is not there anymore, you feel lucky that you even had the chance to have this person in your life, and you try to look at the bright side instead of looking at the fact that, oh, they're not there anymore. I miss them. Like, of course you miss them, but alternatively, you could have not had them at all, right? So I try to look at it in that way, and I'm trying to make a story that kind of reflects what I've been through when it comes to death and loss. So I hope people will enjoy that. I hope it comes out like nicely. Yeah.
So before you were creating comics, you were actually a pretty big comics fan. What was your favorite title?
Oh, when I was younger, I always like read the classics, DC and Marvel. I read a lot of manga, like the old school ones, like Dragon Ball, Yu-Gi-Oh. All those like really known old school mangas. And then when I was forced to quit drawing and give up on my dream to ever make my own comic, I actually stopped reading all sorts of comics. I stopped watching cartoons. I didn't want to be reminded of that. So it's been like 11 years where I haven't touched anything related to like comics and cartoons. Right now, I'm really enjoying Chinese comics. In particular, there's an author called MXTX who makes amazing stories. And right now I'm enjoying a lot of indie comics, a lot of independent comics on Webtoon are super, super cool. So that's mainly what I consume comic wise right now.
Your current comic is, I don't know, is your current comic collaborative? Are you the only person working on it?
The one and only person working on it, and it's such hard work. I think I totally underestimated how much work there is behind it, but to be honest, I enjoy every second of it. Thankfully, the Webtoon community is very supportive of each other, like for the most part, at least. We all like sit together and support each other. If we need any guidance for a specific thing, there is another creator who that is like their main thing, and they can like give you some tips and tricks, and we help each other out, which is super fun, which makes the whole comic journey even more fun. You kind of feel like you're sitting there drawing in a studio, but with a bunch of friends and without having to wear pants.
Nice, nice. What most people don't realize about working at home is the no pants thing is invaluable for your mental health. It really is.
It really is. It's the best part of it.
I remember I was working remote like maybe 20 years ago, and somebody was like, "Well, what do you do for work?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, yeah, I write code for big companies you've heard of. You know, if you've used the internet, you've touched my code somewhere along the line." And he's like, "Oh, wow, I bet it's really strict. You go to offices, you have dress codes or whatever." And I say, nah, I stay at home and I generally work in my bathrobe. And he just got this really weird look on his face, like, oh my God, who am I talking to?
I love that.
But this was this was like at the beginning of the Skype era,
Yeah.
So like video calls weren't a thing yet, and he like every time I ran into that guy for like a year and a half, he'd jibe me about it. He'd be like, "So how's your bathrobe?" And I'd be like, "Well, I've been working naked for the last few days, but I'm glad you asked."
I love you so much. You're the greatest human.
Thank you. Nah. You're pretty awesome too. So I heard
Yeah.
that after you did that interview with with Judah Rad and the guys from IFLC
Yes.
that you were thinking very seriously about putting your comic out as like an ancient Chinese scroll. How's that coming?
Honestly, I'm looking into it. I'm actually researching how to produce custom-made Chinese scroll rods. So I'm actually trying my best to make it happen one day. I'm actually getting quite serious about it. It's gonna happen. Unless
I
someone
want
listens
one
to
so
all these
bad.
podcasts and steal my idea.
Well, even if they did, they'll never execute it as well as you do, you know?
I mean, it would
I
be
think
weird
that's the
to
bottom
have a
line.
non-Chinese comic and then sell it as an ancient Chinese scroll, I guess. But, you can be creative with it. You can make a sci-fi scroll if you want.
There you go. There you go. That could be cool. Or, you could do like a Babylonian scroll or, there's all kinds of scrolls out there, theoretically.
Honestly, yeah. It could be cool if it just became the new thing. Everyone is just making scrolls right now. And it all started with that one podcast on YouTube.
That was pretty awesome.
They're
Oh boy,
awesome.
I am so sorry I couldn't make it for that. I was supposed to show up to that interview, but I lost my wallet and I was freaking out that day.
Yeah,
So
I missed you in that
that was on me.
interview.
Anyway, so when you create a comic book, and you've got a cast of characters, and they've got dialogue that goes back and forth, and just this world that they live in, how do they find their voices, your characters?
I feel like for the most part, at least my main characters, they all are different parts of my inner voices. Like my main character, he's always grumpy, he's always very serious, and is a workaholic who never know when to uh take off his duty as a general. So he's just constantly a soldier, even like in his own home. I'm definitely the same. I'm a total workaholic. I don't know when to not be a makeup artist. I don't know when to not do comics. Like, I make comics until I'm about to fall asleep. Then I sleep, I wake up, and I start making comics again. Right? And in my dreams, I can still dream about me testing makeup products. Um, so that's definitely a big part of me. And the part of him always being grumpy and hating people, don't we all? The other main character is more stemming from the emotional side of me and the more sentimental side of me. But all the other characters, I don't know. I come up with these weird side stories for them, or these ideas of other stories I wanted to make, and instead of making them separate comics, I just made them arcs for the side characters. So the world feels a little bit more full. It's not a whole world just surrounding two main characters. It's like two people in a world that is kind of going on their own. And kind of exploring that world, exploring every side character story and life. And yeah, I don't know. I'm having so much fun building this world with all these characters who all have their own little stories and their own little lives they're trying to live. I love and care for all of them.
So why write about ancient China rather than, something modern day or futuristic per se?
Oh, I love that question. uh Actually, the ancient China is I'm Thai Chinese. At least my mom is from Thai Chinese family, and my dad is Scandinavian. But I grew up with Thai culture, and my mom was a very traditional woman, so she always taught me to be a very traditional Thai girl with a lot of Thai culture. And ancient Asian culture and traditional instruments and clothing, hairstyles all really fascinates me. And China definitely have the oldest of them all. Like most of the other Asian cultures have roots in Chinese culture, right? And me not having I don't know that much about my Chinese roots till I became older, and now I'm trying to reconnect with that part of my genetics and my ancestry. And I think it's really fascinating. It's really, the culture is so rich. There's so many cool folklore, a lot of mythology that just really inspires me. You can tell so many cool stories about Chinese mythology and twist it in your own like creative way. I love that. Just the aesthetics. I love drawing like Chinese hair. I love men with long hair. I love long hair. So why not? Give them all long ponytails. Why not?
Oh yeah, your ponytails are the best things in the world. Just in general.
I tried giving you a ponytail in the beginning, but you cut that off.
I did well. I'm sorry.
No, I love your little shoulder hair moment. It's fun and fresh and very modern.
It is. So like oh, yeah, that's the one I wanted to ask for sure. Very few people actually get this question, but like, where do your stories start off? Because you're writing and illustrating this particular comic. Do they start off in a script, or do you just draw and keep going?
It actually is a story I've had in my head for years, and I couldn't draw. I couldn't even draw a stick figure, as people love to say. But I wanted to tell the story so bad. So I actually wrote it as a novel on Wattpad. Nobody read it though. It was not that popular, but it was there. It existed. And when I taught myself how to draw, I made it a goal for myself. As soon as I feel like the visuals can do the story somewhat justice, I know it's not going to be perfect, or at least my feeling, being so self-critical and perfectionistic, I would never feel like it's perfect or near the level I want it to be. But if I feel like I can do the story justice, I'm gonna make it. And in the end, I was like, you know what? Eva, I've been pushing my art so much. I'm pushing my outside my comfort zone so much. I think I'm ready. Like if I can draw these crazy stuff, like the peaches with the little baseball caps and stuff like that.
Those were funny.
If I can draw all that, I can draw my comic. So I started preparing for the comic, making the character designs, and I all the sorts of ideas. I was researching cultural research on ancient Chinese styling and clothing, hair, symbolism. The main characters, like, it's very on the nose yin yang kind of clothing style they have for their military uniforms. But for the Grim Reaper character, Yan Wang, there's a lot of symbolism. He is dressed in white instead of black, because in Chinese culture, they wear white robes when they're mourning for funerals. And his crown is a dragon and a phoenix, which symbolizes also yin yang, balance, but also marriage. His crown is also a scale. Yeah, a scale, kind of symbolizing justice, as he is like the justice of the dead. So a lot of cultural research, symbolism, colors, all that good stuff. And after that, I just started drawing my comic. I draw the thumbnail, I draw the sketch, like pretty classic stuff. I don't do anything like special out of the ordinary when I do my comic at all.
So, how do you engineer conflict and keep your story moving?
Making a webtoon is a little bit different from other mediums, especially when you have a traditional comic where you're giving out a whole issue. We don't have much. We don't have many panels to work with for each episode. At least, like you can make them long, but normally we usually try to keep them short and sweet, but not too short. And you kind of have to keep the readers interested for every episode. Like one bad episode and you lose people, right? So what I do is like I don't write scripts because I already have the full story. However, I do write bullet points for like each episode. I want the story to progress this much, and I also want this to be the cliffhanger at the end to make people curious to read the next episode. And that's just what I go by. I don't have a set in stone number of panels. I make the amount of panels I think is appropriate and organic for the scene I want to convey. I don't want to limit myself. Sometimes they get longer, sometimes they get shorter. As long as the story progresses a little bit by each episode, so people don't feel like they have waited and don't feel rewarded in some sort of way by reading this episode. Like, I waited for nothing, right? I don't want my readers to feel like that. So that's my main focus when it comes to making each episode.
Do you have a favorite type of story to tell?
I love stories that have a lot of pain and angst and yearning, pining, longing. Like, just take some characters and find ways to really make them suffer as much as possible. Just make people really, really sad. I don't know. I love pain. I choose violence every day I sit down and write my comic. It's gonna get really dark. It's gonna get really, really, really dark. So I'm super excited to draw that.
Was the experience of creating a webtoon different than you thought it would be?
I think the whole community aspect of it and how much the platform actually have a play into how your comic is doing. For me, I was watching Webtoon kind of like YouTube or any other kind of social media where that is just a platform for you to put the content out there. And then you go elsewhere, make people like direct them to that site. Like, it was just a platform that made it convenient for you to read it instead of making your own website, because I'm definitely not tech savvy enough to make my own website. But I slowly started to realize how much the platform actually like have an impact on your comic and how it's doing and the numbers and all that stuff. And there's a huge focus in that in the community as well. For me, I think it's a blessing and a curse. The good thing about it is there's already like a built-in readership. There are so many readers all the time looking for a new comic to read. They have caught up on their favorite comic. They're wanting for something new to read. But on the other side, you also have the downfall that it all depends on the staff of the actual website to see your comic and deem it worthy of being featured, and then you can like make the big numbers. You really have to check yourself and remind yourself why you're doing this, and not getting caught up in the numbers and getting caught up in, I need to do well. Why is this person not? Why is this person doing well and I'm not? What are they doing that I'm not doing, and all that stuff. Where sometimes it's not in your control. Sometimes it's not a simple number thing. Just because your comic is not making numbers doesn't mean it's any less valid or any less good than other comics. There are so many factors playing in. They could have a following in social media elsewhere that they're pulling into the platform. They could have been lucky and being featured by the website themselves. There's so many things playing in, and I think we should try our best to not care too much about the numbers and remind ourselves we making this for free because we love comics. We make this for free because we have a passion for this one story we want to tell, right? But it's very easy for me to say because, again, I haven't done it as long as some other people, and I'm not doing like mind-blowing numbers, but I'm doing decent, right? I'm doing numbers that I myself feel like, you know what, I'm happy with this. I'm grateful. I'm happy. I'm good, right? Of course, I want more numbers, but I'm not gonna be greedy. I'm very grateful for what I have. It's still way more than I ever expected beginning. The community is also amazing. People are super supportive. We all help each other out. I don't know. I'm really grateful for all the friends I've made too. I didn't expect that to happen. I don't know. Webtoon is great. I'm so happy I did it.
How do you make it through the noise?
I don't know. I don't think too much about it. Like I know there's a lot of great advice about going on all sort of social media and try and promote your comic that way. And for me, I'm like, if it's not natural for me to be on that specific app, like TikTok, for example, I don't use TikTok. I don't really understand it. I wouldn't go there to promote my comic. I feel much more natural on Twitter. I'm already there. So it feels more natural for me to promote myself on Twitter. I have never had an expectation of the website Webtoon themselves to promote my work. I have always, since the very beginning, even in my previous career, always been the master of my own success, right? I never expected or wanted anyone to hand anything out to me. If I get if I get a golden ticket, I'm gonna take it, of course. But I never go in to anything having the expectation of someone handing anything out to me, right? So I think I managed my expectations a lot going into it to begin with, and I want to do this, so I'm willing to put in the necessary work to promote my comic. But I'm also not gonna like go out of my way to put work in that I don't know. Doing too many social medias is gonna like stress me out. Twitter is enough. Maybe a little bit of Instagram. So yeah, I think manage your expectations and try and be the master of your own success is a great mindset to go by. If you're not getting handed the golden ticket by the platform, well, just be proud of what you have done by yourself. Like, look at the numbers. Don't compare them to everybody else. Don't compare them to people who already had a following. Don't compare to people who have done it way longer than you. Don't compare yourself with people who have gotten that golden ticket. Compare it to like, hey, I did this all by myself. Like, I made it this far because of me. Like, that's awesome. It doesn't matter how big the number is. You can look at that number and be like, hey, you know what? I kind of did that by myself. Like, even if you got a golden ticket, that's good for you. That's amazing, right? And that's not that you didn't do that. You definitely did that. But if you haven't gotten the golden ticket, I don't know why I keep calling it that, but now that's just what I'm gonna call it. Doesn't make you any less valid, and it doesn't make you any less worthy or deserving of it. There's just so many comics. They can't possibly have seen every single comic, right? So I hope everyone is like, can try and stay motivated and not be too discouraged by numbers. I try myself to not get discouraged by numbers or be too motivated by numbers. I just really want to tell my story.
Speaking of stories, there was a really interesting story that came up around one of your books recently.
Yeah.
And it turns out that somebody pirated your book. It ended up on a big pirate comic site. How did that go? What happened?
I definitely think it's one of the sites I was mirroring my comic in, which is not a pirating site. It's definitely a site I had a slight feeling. There's a lot of pirating sites that are that use bots to rip off some of the comics from that particular site, and then it spreads to all the pirating sites, right? So I kinda mentally prepared myself that it might happen. I don't mind that it happened, actually. I know a lot of people like are super against pirating sites. I'm against pirating sites pirating comics that don't want to be pirated. My own comic, I don't mind it. I don't really care too much. I know that there is a lot of readership in the on the pirating sites, so my comics kind of already where my main audience would be, since Chinese comics don't have official English translations, so they're relying on the pirating sites to read their Chinese comics. My comic is originally in English, but it is surrounding like Chinese culture. So people who would be interested in reading it is on the pirating sites. My comic being there exposes them to the comic, and I've gained a bit of readership on the pirating sites from that. Again, my comic is for free, so I'm not really losing much other than a few subscribers on Webtoon. However, I see all the comments on one of the biggest pirating sites all being, hey, you know, this is on Webtoon. Can you guys please read it on Webtoon instead and sub to the author? Because this is for free and it would really mean a lot to them. Let's support the author and stuff like that. Me reading the comments, all trying to direct people over to my Webtoon, made me feel really happy. It restored my faith in humanity, even though I wasn't like, I'm not too serious about it, right? You always know as soon as you put something out there on the internet, it's gonna be everywhere. There's always gonna be people stealing your stuff, stealing your ideas. There's not really much you can do about it other than try and look at the bright side and take advantage of a shitty situation, right? So that's kind of what I try to do.
I think that's just great. You know how like you're up there and you know on the big one, you know people are just like, hey, support the author. You know that's just really nice and really sweet. You know.
Everything gets pirated: books, comics, especially music. So instead of trying to avoid the inevitable, just, embrace it in some sort of way and think differently about it. Like, be like, how can I use this to my advantage? How can I turn this upside down and benefit from it, instead of just looking, oh no, my stuff got pirated. You can always cry about it and be a victim, or you can like try your best and make the best out of it, right? So yeah.
I think it's ingenious. The just sort of using unconventional avenues to build readership that you wouldn't normally have. I think it's inspired.
Thank you. You're so sweet.
So, Luxiva, we're heading up against the end of our show, and now since you've listened to pretty much every episode, you know what's coming, right?
Yes.
Excellent. So we have the fun questions. Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
Awesome. So what's your favorite food?
I love sushi. I love duck. Yes. I love raw salmon and duck.
Hey, that works. Would you consider yourself a cat or a dog person?
Cat. Definitely a cat person.
What's the best swear word?
Fuck. No. Yes. Fuck. Because you can use it like as a verb, as an adverb, as a noun. You can use it like for anything. You can replace any word or any part of a word with fuck. It's amazing. It's the best word ever.
That's true. What inspires you?
Apart from you, myself, actually. I would say I inspire myself. That sounds really horrible. It sounded better in my head. But I think it gotta come somewhere, right? And it starts with you, and your mindset, right? So I feel like I inspire myself.
And I think you've had an inspiring story, so that's not a bad thing.
That's very true. I feel very blessed to be able to express the darkest part of my life in a very fantastical and whimsical story.
What brings you joy?
Damn. I actually don't know. I think myself again. I honestly don't know. Damn, that's a hard question because I have had quite a sad life, but in the end, I always get back up and I always keep a smile on my face because of myself and my my mindset. Always trying to keep a positive mindset, being like, you know what? I hate being sad. I'd rather be happy. And then I fake it till I make it, I pretend to be happy till in the end I fool myself and I just become happy, right? So
I do the same thing.
You know, again, like with inspiration or with happiness, those things always comes from yourself. If you're looking for outside sources, like if you're not happy with yourself, or if you are not opening yourself up to receive that sort of inspiration and happiness, you're not going to feel it. You're not going to get it, right? So all positive feelings in your life, like motivation, inspiration, passion, happiness, love, all of that starts with you and you being open-minded enough to receive it. Right.
So you've got one selfless, altruistic wish to save the world. What is it?
Damn. That's a deep one. I will definitely say be nice to other people, even though people aren't nice to you. You never know what struggles they're going through. Don't seek vengeance. Don't fuel spite. Because in the end, like, karma is a real thing. And even if you have a conflict with someone or something bad happens to you, the bad things always follows the source. So as long as you're not making yourself a source of a bad situation or a toxic environment, as soon as you remove yourself out of that situation, that bad thing and the toxic environment won't follow you anymore. So as long as you can go to bed every night knowing with yourself, even though that there have been like something that had happened, knowing with yourself you were not the source of the problem, and knowing with yourself, you know what, I regret nothing of what I said and what I did. I can honest to myself without being delusional say that I did the right thing, and I did the best that I could. That's the best thing you can do for your own mental health and for the people around you. And if more people could go by that mindset, I really do feel we would get rid of so much toxicity in the world. Like, if there's something you don't like, don't interact with it. You don't need to broadcast to the world you don't like a certain thing, unless it's very hateful people. Broadcast it as much as you want. There's a certain group of people that is okay.
Yeah.
That's a free pass. I mean, like, in general, with like normal people, then it's fine.
I'm with you there. There's actually a couple of groups of them, but yeah, no, I feel you there.
Yeah. But other than that, I feel like the world would be so much less toxic if we didn't hold on to like negative feelings and wishing ill on other people. And like, no, broken people hurt other people. Broken people try to break other people, right? And it all starts with you. You can't change other people, but you can change yourself, right? And that is one less toxic person in the world. So
There you go.
yeah.
So you wake up one morning and you are imbued with superpowers. What are they, and what do you choose to do with them?
The power of being able to convince people of my truth, or I guess it's like manipulation. I guess I just want to wake up one morning and be a master manipulator, but use it for good. So I want to like manipulate bad people into being good or something like that. I don't know. I think that could be like a cool power, just to be like, you know what, you're a piece of shit. Maybe try and like be nice, and then that person be like, you know what, you're right. And be like, you know what, I'm gonna use my power. You know, my comic is pretty fucking awesome. I think you should go on Webtoon and sub to it. And that person is gonna be like, oh, you know what, you're right.
There you go. And it would be a useful and profitable power too.
I could get rich, girl. I could get so rich.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Imagine going to like a job interview and have that kind of power and just be like, you know what, I'm not gonna say much. Just gonna say I'm perfect for the job, and that person just being like, you got it. I don't need your resume. You got it. You convinced me.
Yeah, that's true. So 100 years from now, NASA throws your entire creative output into a space capsule and launches it into deep space. Now, sometime later, somehow aliens find it. What's their thought? What do they think of your lifetime of creative material?
Damn, those people are really sexy but feminine, and they all have long hair, and they're all very sexually driven. That sounds like a cool ass world to live in. Let's go.
Yeah, it does.
That's a party.
So what's next for Luxiva?
I don't know if there's anything next. Right now, I'm very happy and very driven by my webtoon. I'm having a lot of fun doing this, and I guess that's just where my main focus is going to be for a while. I definitely have some ideas for other comics, or like one specific other comic that I want to try and pitch for some actual publishers, but that's going to be in the future. Right now, I want to give my all to this comic, and I'm very happy with it. And I hope people will check it out and think it's awesome.
Well, darling, I just wanted to let you know that I think your comic is awesome, and I love you to bits. Thank you for being on my humble little show.
I think your podcast is awesome, and I've told you ever since September that your podcast is awesome, and it's gonna blossom into something really big and really special, and you're gonna make some sort of change, some sort of like move. Like you're something special, and this podcast is something special, and it will only get more and more special as the time goes on. And I'm so blessed and so honored that I have been there for like ever since the beginning, I guess. Like not the very beginning, but pretty close to the beginning. So it's amazing to follow your journey and this podcast, and it's so crazy to make this episode finally being on. It's been a wild ride, and I love every second of it, and I love being around you and your positive energy. If people don't know, follow her on Twitter.
Yeah.
You get like a little happy tweet almost every day reminding you how awesome and beautiful you are, and sometimes we just need that.
Thank you. So where can people find you online?
People can find me on Twitter at Empress Luxiva, and they can find me on my Webtoon. If you go on Webtoon and search The Cloud That Became Rain, and leave a little sub to show that you support me. That's all. That's it. I'm not really that active on social media. That's my two main places.
And that's it, my babies. It's time to close the show. I wanted to thank you for being gorgeous, being valid, and for living your best life. We couldn't do this show without you, and you are appreciated. This episode has been part of Batch 37. Titular Characters is a show about the things we love. It's produced and hosted by the adorable Eva Webb. That's me. Opening theme by Antonia Marquis. Closing theme by Mikey Flash of Speed Force Music. The dreamy announcer guy for the introduction is Donnie Underwood, and he is awesome. So have you thought about supporting the show? There are tons of ways to do it. You can show your support by following me at Eva is Adorable on Twitter, leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, CastBox, or Podchaser, and if you feel like you would like to help out the show financially, you can visit us at buymeacoffee.com/Eva is Adorable, because I am. There, you can donate as little as $1, and all proceeds go towards the costs of producing and hosting this show. Every little bit helps, and you are amazing for even considering it. Anyway, babies, that's all we got. Join us next time for another death-defying adventure in cyberspace. Oh, and when you do, bring candy. Love yas.